Hi. It's been a little while since I did my first video, but Ben has uploaded it and edited it, and so it inspired me to continue on and continue talking about my pregnancy, which still exists, which is a great thing. And yeah, I wanted to start talking about my process of getting pregnant, because that is a question that a lot of other trans, non-binary, and generally just queer people ask me about. And I've learned a lot just talking to people even in the last 16 weeks, which is how pregnant I am. So first I want to start out and say that something interesting that's come up in talking to a lot of other queer folks is this idea that somehow got into a lot of our heads, including my own, that just because me and my partner can't have sex and then accidentally get pregnant, that somehow we have a fertility issue. That's sometimes the case, but not always. It's just, it's the same rate of infertility for folks who are not queer. And it's just an interesting thing to reflect on, because it has a lot to do with, I think, internalized homophobia and just not believing that gay people are naturally or organically capable of creating a family. And that was not the case for me and my family. Again, that's like something that people deal with on an individual basis. But I just want to remind people out there that just because you are queer doesn't mean that you have necessarily a fertility challenge. Even friends of mine asked me, when I told them that I was pregnant, they asked me if I did IVF or some sort of fertility treatment. That's how they assumed I got pregnant. And that is just not the case, and not the first thing that's necessary in my experience. So don't get IVF if you haven't tried to just be inseminated. So with that said, that's my little disclaimer. My partner and I started our process just by talking to our doctor. Luckily, she had a doctor who's a naturopath who also was a fertility doctor, and so she was able to answer a lot of questions for us, because she will often inseminate people who get a sperm from a sperm bank, which is something that a lot of people do. And so she told us how you could do that at home, and it was, in our case, and the way she explained it, pretty simple. You have, if you do it at home and you don't get sperm from a sperm bank, you have a person masturbate into a cup, and you just get the sperm into your body as soon as possible, and you get it into your body and as close to your cervix as possible, as fast as possible. And so for us, that meant we had a person who we had in mind, who we knew. We didn't just have him in mind by the time he gave his sperm to us, but we had a person in our life who we knew was going to give us his sperm, and we just sort of told him when we were coming over, asked him to be prepared, and he masturbated into a cup, and we went into his bathroom probably about 20 to 30 minutes later, and we used a syringe, kind of like the one you feed your animals with, and I put it into my vagina and as close to my cervix as possible, so just like pushed it all the way in like a tampon, and pushed it in, and then laid on my back and closed my legs. And we did that just the same amount of frequency that you would want to have sex with somebody if you were having sex to reproduce, meaning you want to get sperm into your body once and then 48 hours later, And so we did it twice. And then we were gonna do it a third time, but then my egg dropped. And that meant that the timing was perfect because, and this is just general knowledge, and truth has nothing to do with whether you're trans or not trans or whatever, but you want to get the sperm into the body a couple days before the egg pops down, because the spermies can live for 3 to 5 days, and once the egg comes down, you don't really want any more sperm to come swimming at that egg. You want the sperm to be just like waiting for the egg and just ready. And most people ovulate 10 or 12 to 12 days after they have a period. So that's what we did. We did that once, and we were lucky enough to have that result in a viable pregnancy. So, I mean, that was like about as straightforward as I think it gets. I feel pretty fortunate that I didn't have to go through multiple inseminations, especially being that I went off testosterone to get pregnant. I went off testosterone and it took 3 months for me to get a period. I waited the 10 to 12 days for me to be around the time before I ovulated, and that's when we did it. So I had one period, and then I didn't have to have another period, and to me, the less time I can be off testosterone, the better. It was, I'm sure it's horrifying for anybody who's thinking, oh, I'm trying to get pregnant and I'm imagining that I'm going to be getting pregnant and then I'm not getting pregnant, and the disappointment of trying and not being successful. But, for me, I think the unique factor was that I didn't want to prolong the amount of time that I was off testosterone, and I felt like it was a waste of time for me to be off testosterone and not pregnant. So luckily that worked out for us. Again, I know that doesn't happen for everybody, and it's probably going to be different for everyone, but that's what we did. Before we found our donor, or around the time we found our donor, we selected somebody that we thought was great, that we thought was nice and we liked, and we had him sign a contract. We drew that contract up with a family law attorney who has some experience with this, and some experience with just generally queer folks, helping queer folks start families when there's another person involved who's not in that family unit, meaning that we had him sign a contract to terminate his parental rights and any claim to parental rights that he may have. The whole involving a lawyer and getting a contract thing, for us it was really important. And even we live in the state of Washington, even in Washington, those contracts are not like airtight. There's a lot that can go wrong. Courts can interpret them and allow people who are not supposed to be parents to be a part of a child's life once they're born, if they are somehow biologically involved with the creation of that child. So there's a lot of other things that we were advised about being careful about, like don't call the person uncle, don't accept large gifts from the person, don't invite them to every birthday party, and things like that, so that you're not establishing like a parent-child relationship by mistake when you don't want to. If you want to, great, do it. If you don't, just something to be thoughtful about. And lawyer sounds like a lot of money and scary, but just for getting a contract drawn up, and if you find like a local family law attorney, that's relatively not that expensive. It was a couple $100. It didn't need to be that much. We could have done it for less money, but we wanted to go back and forth and draft a little bit more detail. Like I said, it doesn't have to be that much. We signed it with our attorney. We had him go get another attorney and sign it with another attorney. That part is important for purposes of the contract being upheld. So that was what we did before I put sperm in my body. And then, like I said, I went off testosterone and we started planning to get pregnant. I was really scared that when I went off testosterone, I wasn't going to get my period again. I hadn't had any health problems related to being on testosterone. I'd never gone off testosterone before. It was really scary for me. I didn't want my body to change, which I know is counterintuitive because I wanted to get pregnant. But that wasn't why I wanted to get pregnant. So it was really scary for me. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get my period back, but I did after a couple months. And, you know, I encourage other people out there to just relax and know that this is something that other people do. And if your period doesn't come back for 3-4 months, I know that it's really hard thing to wait for when you don't want to be off testosterone. But if you haven't had any other health problems, it's pretty likely to just reappear for better or for worse. So yeah, that's how we decided to get pregnant, and that was the approach we took. Obviously you can get sperm donors, so then there's less complications around having contract and terminating parental rights and that sort of thing. They run tests on that, on the semen, so that you know that you're not getting any STIs or anything like that. They do run other types of tests on sperm. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but they can, a sperm bank could tell you that. Just to say there's many ways to do it. And you can definitely get a buddy and a syringe and just lay on a bathroom floor. So that's all for now, and thank you for watching.